Welcome to the Save Par Golf Podcast, where two average golfers talk about golf and things. I'm your host, Derek.
Did you hear that?
Dom's cracking over here. Gee whiz. Make a quick appointment to the chiropractor.
I'm going tomorrow.
All right, there we go. We have a very special guest today. We're on episode 127. Lost my train of thought. Dom's over here getting ready to fist fight somebody, cracking some knuckles. We have Daniel, a.k.a. Bay Area Dad Life, a.k.a. Mr. Misfit 006. He's a friend of the pod and has many talents, but is also growing the game within his family. Make sure to give him a follow on Instagram. His handle is at Mr. Misfit 06.
And at Bay Area Dad Life.
Exactly.
You can't do the one AKA.
I know. The whole knuckle thing just really kind of threw me.
You didn't even type it.
Well, I was going to say it though, because I did have it both typed. Before we jump into this episode, though, we want to thank Kingsman Golf for sponsoring this episode. Kingsman Golf is an apparel company that offers unique but high-quality polos, including the Jet, the Purple Royale,
which is my favorite.
Dom's favorite, and the Dandy, to name a few, which is the one I have. You can purchase your own polo by going to kingsmangolf.com, and you can save 20% by using our code SAVEPAR20 at checkout. I typed in you could save 0% originally. Yeah. I totally mistyped that, but 20%. So we appreciate that. Sponsoring.
Like if anybody's hesitant and go, wow, that shirt's kind of expensive, 20% takes it below $60. $60 for a high quality polo is like nothing in today's world, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, that bullshit Tiger put out was more expensive. Sorry.
A lot more expensive.
And I know you like Tiger.
Yeah, I do. But, I mean, you go to Chipotle, aka I had that today. Granted, my sister-in-law paid for it today, but I mean, it's like $12 now. So, I mean, yeah, everything's up, as far as price. Yeah. But, Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us on the podcast, man.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Always humbling and feel blessed whenever anybody asks me. This is like I think the third podcast I've been on, but obviously the first time I've been on with you guys. So, yeah, welcome. Super.
That's why I think it's funny. Like you've done a few of these, and you're like, I'm so nervous. I'm like, stop it.
Well, it's just because, like, I mean, it's always humbling, right? Like somebody actually wants to hear your thoughts and opinions on stuff. So it's a cool feeling.
Very cool. No, we appreciate you being on the pod, and again, welcome to the Save Par Golf Podcast family. So how's everything going? What have you been up to? How's the golf game been? Just fill us in a little bit.
Good, man. Yeah, I've been not playing as much as I would like for myself. Mostly going out to the course for my son. So, but that's cool. I get I get enjoyment out of being out there with him, even though I'm not out there playing. But yeah, it's cool. At least we're out there, right?
Exactly.
Well, and I think that's what's so cool, right? I don't have kids.
I have a dog.
There you go.
I have a dog.
You're catching on. I have a dog.
Yeah.
But
my dog is an awesome golf swing, by the way.
Yeah.
Your dog can't even hold a club.
Yeah, she can. She can bite people, but she can't hold a club.
Yeah, I don't think she should bite people.
That's how you lose. Probably not a good look.
But it's like every picture I see of you playing golf, little Miklo's right there too.
Yeah.
I know it's not Miklo. I just don't feel right saying his name on air. Just a little weird, right? Like,
no, it's all good. I appreciate it.
It's a little weird. We'll call him Miklo in honor of Blood In, Blood Out, the movie I just watched. Yeah. Thanks to everybody in the group chat.
Finally.
Yeah. Hey, you guys told me and I watched it right away.
Yeah.
I was saying that I haven't seen it yet. So I told him that it's actually this episode's just going to be Dom and Daniel talking. I'm going to be in the background watching the movie. So.
Those locals for life.
But yeah, so your son has a better swing than pretty much everyone I've seen golf before. So what's the secret sauce? What do we got going on here?
Is he sponsored by Odin yet?
Yeah, what's going on here?
Man, I need to get on Jordan, man. He needs to be their first official sponsored athlete.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, no, it's kind of interesting. I never really was interested in golf growing up. And I had two uncles who played as long as I can remember. They were always playing golf, always inviting me and my cousins out to play. But I never went. I was always playing either soccer or baseball, and then I also grew up doing martial arts. So I didn't. I had no desire to play golf. It's just it was beyond me. I didn't find it interesting. But like a lot of people during the COVID lockdown, so it's an interesting story. What ended up happening is we were at home watching or getting ready to watch. I don't know if it was baseball. It had to have been baseball. But there was a golf tournament on the TV before the game that we were waiting to watch. So I just turned the TV on and just left it on, waiting for the game to come on. But it was the PGA. Some tournament was on, and my son was in front of the TV, just wide eyed, looking at the TV. And then he's like, "Papa, I want to play golf." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, right." Like, he's little, so he doesn't know. He just looks interesting to him. So he asked me for a while about it. So I finally took him to like a little mini golf, like putt golf thing. And he was smacking the ball across the park, like just naturally, just boom, and the ball would go flying. And so I was like, no, like, no, you just want to hit it right there where the hole is, right there. And so then he did it. He'd hit the ball a little bit more like a putt, and he was doing really good. But then we'd go a hole or two, and then he'd do it again, swing as hard as he could, and there goes the ball, goes flying again. So anyway, fast forward, we do that a couple of times, and I'm mentioning to a friend of mine who his kids are in high school now, but they were in like the first tees program, and then they were playing for their high school, and now one of them's going on to college to play college golf. And he said, "Hey man," I was mentioning to him about my son wanting to play golf, and he was like, "Oh, I got some old clubs. They're one of my kids. Like, you can have them, just take them, right? Like, I have no use for them, so go ahead and take them." So I was like, "All right." And it was like a driver, a sand wedge, and I want to say maybe a hybrid or something. And so we took those, and they're not, fitted for him or anything. They're not his size. They were still big for him, but we went to the driving range. I just took him to the driving range, and he put a golf ball down, and he starts smacking the balls, and he's hitting them perfectly straight, like right down the pipe. Not far, right, because he's little, but
must be nice.
they're straight. They're straight, and I was like, "Oh, okay, there might be something here, right?"
Yeah.
Even for his age, right? Just very smooth, natural swing, and just straight down the line. And that was it, man. He was hooked. And then so after that, we went to one of the. So I have two courses that are near me. One of them is a 9-hole Muni course, and then another 18-hole. Started taking them out to the 9-hole course because it has a driving range attached to it. So we'd go out there, and then he'd just be hitting balls there, and he'd go to a little chipping and putting area, and he would throw his golf ball into the sand, and he's practicing hitting it out of the sand. And he's like nailing it. Like, just I haven't shown him anything. He's just naturally, like, he's out of the bunker. He's hitting chip shots onto the green. He's landing 4 or 5 feet from the pin. And so I just kept taking him out there. So one of those days that we were there, one of the coaches for the first tees program that's there, he comes over and he asked me, "Hey, how long has your son been playing?" At the time it was maybe like 5-6 months, right? And I tell him, "Oh, we just come out here and fool around and hit some balls." And
sure,
yeah, and he asked me, he's like, "How old is he?" And at the time he was 4, and so I told him he's 4, and he's looking at me because he's a very big kid for his age, right? He's very tall, And he's like, man, I thought he was like 6 years old. And I said, no, he's 4. He's going to be 5 pretty soon, but he's still 4. And he says, when you turn 6 years old, I want you to bring him back and get him enrolled into first tees. Because if he sticks with it, he's going to be really good at this. And I kind of, took it with a grain of salt, right?
Sure. And you're not sure if he's going to stick with it either, right? At that time, you know what I mean? But
right. Yeah. I mean, his attention span is like, a day's worth, maybe, right?
Kind of reminds me, I was supposed to be like a gifted reader when I was little. Mm-hmm. And like, I do read at a high level, but do I ever read?
So yeah, I'm like the exact opposite. I was like far from being a gifted reader. Not that I'm a gifted reader, but like I do read a lot. You know what I mean?
I was reading at a really high level when I was younger.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, what's a book?
I'm only reading menus these days.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. See, I was just interested in like Sports Illustrated as a kid. You know what I mean? Like looking at, I'm like, where are the picture books?
We both know you're only reading the swimsuit edition.
Well, that too. But I'm looking for the picture books. Yeah, I'm reading, looking at pictures.
Right.
But so is your kid now just like, hey Dad, come over here. Let me teach you something? Is he kind of like teaching you how to play golf then? Is this like the roles were reversed?
Yeah, so he obviously he stuck with it, right? And so this year is his first year in first tees. But it was difficult for me because I never, like I said, I didn't play golf. I didn't know anything about golf. And so he got to a point where he's asking me like, hey, how do I hit this shot? And I don't know how to tell him, right? So what I did is I went and I bought one clip. I bought a 3-wood. It was used. And it was like a super, flimsy shaft on it. And I would swing, and I would hit the ball, but because the shaft was a very, very, very flimsy.
It was like a regular shaft, so like it wasn't stiff or anything.
It was just like if I hit the ball, I was knocking the ball far, right? But the problem was like I don't know what I'm doing either, right? And so he's asking me for help, and I don't know how to help him. So that's how I got into it, because I wanted to be able to tell him, okay, this is what you want to do, this is how you're going to do it, and whatnot. But I'm also very competitive, and I don't like not being good at something. And golf is very, very difficult, right? Like you guys know that. So going out there and getting on the range and trying to hit a ball when you don't know how to hit the ball was very frustrating for me. So I got hooked because I wasn't good at it. But it all started from him, right? So yeah. So it's funny now we go to the driving range and we'll go practice. And I'll hit a bad shot, and he just thinks it's hilarious because he's like, "No, let me show you how to do it."
Yeah, you're gripping it wrong.
Yeah, he's like, your grip's too tight. You're swaying a little too much. It's hilarious, right?
That's so cool.
You feel like you're grounded.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'd be like one of my fears, like, is having kids is like.
It's a big fear of mine, just in general.
Well, that too, but more or less, like your kid brings home like homework, and you're like, "What the hell is this?" You know what I mean? It's the same thing. You're like, "Well, how am I supposed to teach you how to hit this shot when I don't?"
I've been given homework, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?"
But like, can you tell us a little bit of like what the first tee's been like for him? Has he been in the program for a while now, or is he just starting?
They're about a month in now. And so he has a competitive nature too. It's not as intense as mine, but I can tell like he has that in him, and he doesn't like to lose. So they'll do little competitions within the group, right? So they break them down into groups according to their age. And so in his group, there's six kids total, including him, and it's 3 boys and 3 girls, and they'll work on just real basic drills. And then they'll do a competition at the end of the day based off of what it is that they were working on. So it might be like closest to the pin or closest, putt shot,
sure.
Or whatever the case is. But he loves it. We'll be out there. They're only an hour-long sessions, but he doesn't want to leave. He'll finish his hour, and like this last time, he was like, "I want to go practice putting because I didn't putt very well today," which is crazy that. Yeah. He even thinks that, right? But I've seen him out there and he'll drain like a 15-foot putt, no problem. And then he comes over and he's like, "Oh, I did really bad on my putting." I was like, "What are you talking about? You just drained a 15-foot putt."
I would have 4-putted that bad boy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That is so cool.
And so he's hooked. He's hooked on it. He
actually like, I don't know if I've ever talked about it, but I took lessons when I was little. I'm not like super little, but like younger. And my grandparents put me in lessons because my grandpa likes to golf. And my mom hasn't golfed in years. So for Mother's Day, I was thinking about getting her like a used set of clubs.
Yeah.
And then Derek pointed out that I have so many sets, so she can just take one or borrow one, whatever. They're mine. But I missed a couple lessons. So you've seen me play golf. What lessons do you think I missed?
I couldn't really tell you because I never had lessons in my life.
I missed my driving lesson. So everything I hit is right. And then the lesson where they were learning fairway woods, I missed that one. So guess what? 2 clubs I can't hit.
He can. You just I wouldn't say you can't hit it. I would just say consistently. But that's like every golfer in most. But you're not giving yourself credit. I think you can.
No, I can hit my irons really well.
Yeah. Well, the last few times that we went, granted it was last year. You ate your driver pretty well, and then we went to.
I lost it this year.
Did you? That's where I'm at. My driver, I'm normally decent. I'm not.
I drove you a couple times.
Yeah, normally not a long ball hitter, but like just not comfortable with my driver. But that is one thing that there was 2 different little side notes that I want to bring up. One is that we talk a lot about investing like in clubs and there's so many cool and technology, right? There's so many things, but I think one of the pieces that a lot of people miss out on is getting those lessons and learning the proper way to grip the club. Because for me, for example, same thing, like I didn't have lessons and it was just kind of self-taught watching YouTube videos, but like there might be certain things that work better for me that someone else could see what I'm doing wrong or right, like, hey, try this. So I think that's there's a big misunderstanding on buying quality. I think you still definitely need quality clubs, right? And technology is there.
Oh, for sure.
But I think
maybe not at a young age.
Yeah, but I think it's and then that my second piece to that was that one, when I was younger, I played sports growing up my whole life, and basketball was my first true love, and then football, baseball.
Where did your wife rank in that?
She's up on the top, but she didn't know her at the time. But no, But, when I was a kid, man, I was so competitive too playing sports. And I think golf is such a mental, like you're kind of playing by yourself in a sense at a young age. You're not playing with your buddies, you know what I mean? So you're like, and that's why I think I like basketball and all that. You're playing against other people and with your teammates. And I think, most people like you, for example, you say like you didn't really grow up playing golf, you were playing soccer and all that. And most people that didn't play when they were younger, that's like they're like, I wish I would have started when I was younger. And I think it's so interesting and so cool that your son has just taken like a natural liking to a sport that you don't really see a lot of young kids tend to gravitate to unless
unless their dad or grandpa plays or
exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I think that might have been part of the with me too. Like it's like I was just so involved in some of these other sports, and like Dom said, he had the lessons, but sometimes when you're at that age, it's just like it's fun, but it's not kind of.
I mean, I got into lessons because when I was younger, my cousin and I were like, super tight, thick as thieves. Obviously, we go down different paths as we get older. It is what it is. It's part of life, right? But he was playing, and I was like, that looks like so much fun. So originally it was me and something for my cousin and I didn't do together other than hang out and play video games, which was fine. But like he played baseball and I played baseball. That wasn't because he played. I just suck at baseball. You think you might be romantic about it. It's baseball. But it was originally a way for me and my cousin to like do something together. And then he stopped playing golf. And I was like, well, I'm at the age where it's like, I don't really know anybody. And I was like young enough. So like, I don't have a car. Kind of
caught in between.
So I didn't play for a long time. And then I picked it up again when I was probably a senior or junior in high school. And funny enough, we were talking about like lessons. I learned my grip from the podcast.
Yeah. You had somebody.
Shane.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah. Shane from OB is like, oh, why don't you try overlapping? Because I don't like interlocking. Like it makes me feel like I'm gonna throw my club 400 yards.
Yeah.
So I overlap, and that has dramatically changed.
Because you had kind of a baseball, like a
yeah.
Was that our first guest? We talked about that like a couple of weeks ago. Remember, we were trying to figure out who our first guest was.
I think so, but
I think it was. But I think it was like after the fact, though. I think that when we had this conversation.
Yeah, I think so. And it was like right away. He's like, "Oh, you should do this," and I was like, "Oh, damn."
But yeah, exactly. Kind of goes back to that point. There's so many people that
Golf's hard.
it is. It's already hard in itself, but with going back to your son playing golf, it's probably also a really cool thing that kids that are kind of growing up. I have cousins and nieces and all that. The technology going back to everyone's glued to their phone and glued to their Nintendo or whatever it might be.
110% that you were just calling me out.
No. But I'm just curious. Like, is it?
Seeing who our first guest was, going all the way back.
Has that been one thing like where he just like naturally just like wants to be outside and just play golf, or it's kind of a?
Yeah, he's definitely. So I was like that growing up. I was outside.
Mm-hmm.
Dom and I always like to joke about our age difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was
Dom's a lot older, right?
Yeah. I was explaining to my son.
Benjamin Button over here.
It was open. Yeah.
I was explaining to him that like when I was young, the internet was very, very new, right? Like it wasn't always around, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have a cell phone until I was like a senior in high school, right? And kids now are 6-7 years old and they got cell phones, right?
Yep.
But I was, me and my friends when we were growing up, we were outside, we were playing all day, right? Street lights would come on, and it's like, okay, it's time to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's very much like that. I mean, he also has his moments where he's like, he wants to be on the phone or looking at YouTube or whatever. But I try to minimize that as much as possible and keep him outside and keep him playing, playing football. He likes a bunch of stuff. So we'll go outside and throw a football or throw a baseball or whatever. But his thing right now is golf. So, we're running with it.
Yeah.
So last night I asked him like, "Hey, what's your email?" He sent me his email, and I was like, part of me was hoping you'd have an AOL email so I could bring up AIM. And he goes, "It still exists." I said, "I honestly thought AIM shut down." And he goes, "It probably did, but my email still works." And I said, "Closest thing my generation has is Club Penguin." Club Penguin, and he goes, "Damn,
yeah,
I never was on Club Penguin. I don't know, but I know AIM was like a chat room, right?"
Yeah.
You can't do that in today's world. You get kidnapped.
I love going down like the rabbit hole of like the vintage 90s or like vintage 80s. So I'm an 89.
He showed me this thing today. He's like, "Do you remember this?" I'm like, "No, I don't know what it is."
Yeah,
it was a payphone.
Yeah, what is that? No, but
I thought it was a sex thing.
No, it wasn't a sex thing. It was I forget now. I'm drawing a blank on, but it's basically like it's almost like a mini recorder toy. Like you'd speak into it, back or whatever. But I was trying to think of the reference though back in the vintage days. Like my days for like music, for example, like Napster, LimeWire, like those were the good old days, like burning CDs and having your big photo or your CD book of playing. But
I still have a bunch of CDs like that too.
I do too. So my first car, my first car didn't have Bluetooth, so I was buying CDs for my car, and then my Joey Badass CD got stuck in my car, so I had to buy a new radio. And I was like, I really want that CD.
Did it work when it was stuck in there?
Unfortunately, yeah. It's just like you can only listen to one Joey Badass album for so long before you're just like, I need. So then I buy Bluetooth, and I'm like, how do we take this radio apart? So my dad and I are in our basement taking this car radio apart just for this damn CD that I'll never use again.
Yeah. I always get humbled with my son too because he's into old school music, right? Old school, and to him, old school is like Sum 41. And Linkin Park, stuff like that. And I'm like, so he loves that kind of music, but it's like old to him, right? And to me, when he's talking about that kind of music, I'm like, I was in high school.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Spotify has this AI DJ, and it's like, let's listen to some music from back in your day. And I was like, how old does it think I am? And it was like Justin Bieber, Baby. And I was like, I was in middle school and this came out. I vividly remember. And I was like, oh my God, I am old.
It's weird though, because you never think like your music, it's like when you're listening to a kid on the radio, and it's like the 80s, 90s, and today's, like,
Right.
and now it's like 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s.
Yeah.
Well, when I was younger, my dad had like a Sirius radio in the car. So like I grew up listening to like 80s hair metal. So like my dad and I went and saw Kiss. Kiss is dope.
That would have been a cool one.
Kiss is so cool. So my dad and I, growing up, would listen to Kiss. I knew Def Leppard. I knew like White Snake, Tesla, Rat. Like I knew all of these. Yeah, dude, I'm well versed thanks to my dad. And then like on the flip side, my mom was listening to like Prince and Shania Twain and all these others. And then there's me, just like David Banner,
skips Biggie, big jump.
Tupac.
Yeah, that's funny.
Have you shown him David Banner yet? Because that might be a good one to get him hooked on.
I don't know if that's age appropriate.
I don't think that's totally street legal right now, appropriate at the time. Unless you get the clean version.
Right.
But then it's just silent for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But
Dad, the CD's skipping. What's going on here? Those are just some words that they're blanking up. What have you been up to as far as like new projects? Because I know you're a guru at photography. You do all sorts of cool stuff.
So before we get into that, I want to kind of tell a story.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure you're not thrilled about it, but at the shindig, you're like, hey, as I'm like pretty drunk.
Oh yeah.
You're like, hey, do you want to?
Dom was feeling good. Like honestly, like Dom doesn't really drink at all. I mean, I don't want to say he doesn't drink at all, but I've never seen him like that.
So I mean, the first time you introduce yourself, you're like, hey, I'm Daniel. I'm like, dope. Great to meet you. And then I went back to putting flags on. And then you're like, are you thirsty? I'm like, no, I got my water. He goes, no, are you thirsty? And I was like, oh. And we go back to your car. You're like, we got Fireball or tequila? I'm like, oh, we're doing tequila. I don't remember who the other guy was, but damn, that went down real smooth. Who?
Gio.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So at that point, I've had tequila. I haven't had water yet. I think I've had a Red Bull tequila. I had probably like 4 cups of Lecheve at that point.
I didn't try that.
I drank enough for you when
all that day.
Holy shit, it was
really
good.
Wishing I would have.
And then you go up to me like, hey, do you want to run around with the $6,000 Leica M6 with the Summicron on it? And I'm just like, no, give it to me.
And then all of a sudden
So I'm taking all these pictures and I'm like, oh no, I burned up his roll of film. I had a spare roll on me. And I was like, oh, I'll be nice and throw the roll in. I don't know how Leicas work. And now I own a Leica and I still don't know how that some bitch works. So I put in a roll wrong and it didn't do anything. So that was a fun way to learn that I did it wrong. The issue is I jammed yours.
Yeah. Yeah. You were the look on your face when I told you how much it could potentially cost to fix the camera was priceless.
Sobered up real quick. I'm sober. Dom's trying to figure out like, where's my wallet?
But I also know, like, I also knew that. So you and I had obviously talked before, and I knew you were like into cameras, just like I was, or you were into photography. So backtrack a little bit. I was not supposed to play at the shindig.
Yeah,
I was supposed to go there to take photos for Jordan, and then Jordan messaged me and said, "Hey, we need 2 for one of the teams because somebody backed out or something."
Yep.
And so I said, "I'm down to play. I'll see if I can get somebody." And that was Gio, who ended up Chef Gio, who came out to play also, which he's a pretty good golfer himself. And so I normally would just walk around with one of those. I have an M6 and an M2, and I usually have one on me almost always. And so I knew you, just based off of the conversations that you and I had, I knew that you would have been interested in seeing it and messing, kind of playing with it and seeing what it was like. So I really brought it for that reason, because I knew you were going to want it. I knew that I was not going to be able to play and try to take photos at the same time. But I put a roll in there, and I just figured I'll give it to Dom so that he can, he can play with it.
Click happy on it.
It was fun. I took a couple bangers. There were a couple good ones.
Yeah, there were some good photos there. Yeah, I could definitely see there was the talent there. So, and that's with not even knowing really how to use the camera, right? Not that they're incredibly difficult.
That was my first time using a rangefinder.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know how this shit works. I'm like
the actual zoom. Oh yeah.
No, so with rangefinder, you get 2 images, and you have to focus
the camera. Okay,
and then they line up, and then that's when you're in focus. And I still fuck that up today. I have like a Yashica Electro, and I love it, but god damn it, can I not take any good pictures with it?
Yeah.
The only so I like photography as well. I'm not active as Dom.
Well, we have to clear up that you fixed your camera.
Yeah, you
I did
fix
it.
Yeah. Players.
I was.
That's why this conversation's so happening. He's on the podcast because the camera's. Otherwise, he's actually on the podcast. He's trying to get some money.
That night, everybody had went to bed, and I'm like, I'm gonna take a shower. And then when I got out of the shower, he had texted me, and I was like, thank God. I had to do my best not to scream out of excitement because I would have woken everybody in the Airbnb up. Which I think Brian would have been okay, but I could see Brendan, Luke, and you being a little bit more upset.
I mean, I probably wouldn't have been upset, but I'd be like, what the hell is he doing? But I'm trying. So going back to it, so that's one of the things that my wife and I used to do is we used to take a lot of photography or photos, like kind of cityscapes. Yeah. And I just haven't been as active as I used to be. We used to do it all the time, but there's a movie and we're talking about Roblox, and there's a movie and I can't remember. I want to say it was not another teen movie, but it's not. But there's a clip and this guy is like, oh, it's Euro Trip. That's what it is. It's Euro Trip. And that's how I heard about a Leica, because the guy was like obsessed with traveling and he's like, it's the Leica M whatever. I think it's M7 or something. Yeah. So, and then realize how expensive those cameras are, but they're supposed to be
So he sent me, one of his buddies had some that are CLA'd, which is clean, lubed, adjusted, whatever it is. And they're like $600. And I'm at the point where I'm like, that's not a bad deal. And then you have to, and then I asked you, I'm like, how much are the lenses? You're like, cheap one's like $900. And I'm like, I'm in this thing like $1,500 for a body and a lens. And I'm like,
that's where the price really gets you, is those lenses. I mean, obviously the bodies on some of those models are really expensive, but the lenses are what really, really is expensive.
And I tend to tell people, a body is a body, right? Most camera bodies all do the same thing, right? But where you should really invest your money is in the glass, right? Because not all lenses are created the same, and some are definitely better than others. So, if you're in the market or you're trying to buy a camera, I would say buy a used body and then buy a brand new lens, whatever you can afford, right? Some people have a little bit more, disposable income than others, right? So if you can, or if you want, I would invest more in the glass than the body.
I've traded lenses for another lens, which I never thought I would ever do. Have you used MPB?
Mm-hmm.
So I traded a couple lenses. That's how I have that lens that we use all the time. I have like the 24-105 RF.
Yeah.
Like F4.
I've used Adorama. That's the one that I.
Adorama's great. Yeah, that's where I got these lights from.
Oh, is that where you got them from? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's where I got my.
But MPV, I'm like, this is great. So I got all this credit towards them. I got the lens to use, which is brand new. And I'm like, this lens we use for everything.
Where?
But then I landed, and then I was like, I kind of want a Leica, so now I own a Leica.
He's a proud owner of a Leica.
Yep.
Yeah. So kind of
taking a great picture of a dumpster with it.
A live look at Derek's golf swing.
It was actually
just a golf club.
It's like literally a dumpster.
Garbage. So not to get too personal, but can you tell us a little bit about your photography? I know, I believe you shot for the Clutch Collective, I think is what you did. You kind of made some. Did you do some shooting for that?
No, I did. Clutch Collective and Patty Ice. Shout out Patty. Yep. Shout out Mike. They did an event called Bay Business, and I just did a very quick just a reel from the event. But yeah, that's all. It was just I went to the event just to support them, support Clutch, support Patty. And then, nothing serious. I didn't go there with the intentions of making content.
Yeah.
But I just happened to be there and I was snapping and there's a bunch of people. So
Gotcha.
just a real quick
video. Are you doing any like videography or photography projects in the golf space at all?
No, not really. I mean, so I want to say the last like event that I did that was golf related was when, Colin Morikawa won out here in San Francisco. I don't remember what year that was. But they did that tournament out here in San Francisco. And he won that one. I was there for that.
That wasn't at the TPC Harding, was it?
I don't want to. Yeah, I'm not sure. But
no, Riviere's in Los Angeles. It wasn't Los Angeles.
No, it was Harding Park.
It was Harding. Okay, yeah. Because we talked about trying to get out there and play that, but
it was booked out for. It was fucking after.
Yeah. So I got to go there. But I haven't done anything golf specific since then. And it's just because it's difficult, right? If I'm going there with the intent to do content, then I can't be there trying to play golf either. I can't, it's just not going to work, right? My game is either going to suffer, or the photos or content is going to suffer. You can't really do both of them, right?
No, I hear you. Can you talk a little bit about the photography? Like, I know Dom showed me some photos of you as well, but
I have one of his pictures.
Yeah, it was with
Debo.
Debo, yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you got in that?
I love Debo.
Yeah, so I've done freelance work mostly, and so freelance is kind of just whatever's really available, right, or whatnot. So just to kind of give you a historical, I guess, I got into it in high school because my high school offered a black and white darkroom photography type of class, right? Yeah, so I did it in high school. I took the class just because it's an elective, and so I just did it just to do it. And it was cool. It was fun. But it wasn't until I went to college that I got really interested in photography. I had two people in my family were very serious, like pro amateur photographers, and they would do weddings and portraits and things like that, headshots and whatnot. So I was always kind of around it, even as a little kid, but never really thought of it as a career or a gig that I would do until I got into college. So I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in media arts. And so essentially what media arts is, it's kind of a catch-all for everything, right? It's like web design, video, we did basically a little bit of everything.
Sure.
And then it wasn't until we got into like the Photoshop and photography aspect of the program that I felt like, oh, this is something I could do, or I'm interested in. And so most of what I do is film photography for myself. But anything that's like work related or anything that I'm doing outside of my own stuff is digital. So I use mostly Canon gear, but for myself, it's mostly all film, and it's usually black and white. So yeah, that was kind of how I got into it. It's weird for me to kind of call myself or tell people that I'm a photographer, just because it's like not, I don't feel like I deserve that title, right? Like I know a lot of people who are amazing photographers, and I compare myself to them. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about being competitive, right? I don't like not being good at something. And so I'm hypercritical of my photos to the point where like one little thing could make me say this is not a good photo, right? Where most people would be like, I didn't even notice that. yeah, it's a great photo. And I'll be like, no, I kind of messed this part up, right? And so I'm hypercritical of it, but it's also because I've had the privilege of being around some really, really good photographers that, I mean, like Pulitzer Prize winning people, right? That just being around them and listening to them and learning from them, it's very humbling. And to where I would say, like, I'm just a very average photographer compared to them. Like they're legit photographers. I'm just I compare myself to them and I'm like, I'm nobody compared to them, right? But it's also, it goes back to that competitive nature because it makes me want to be better and take the next photo is going to be just that much better. And then the next photo after that would be better. So it's kind of like chasing that next photo.
Sure.
I've known people who, they would tell me, like, so Dom and I have talked about like street photography, which is like one of the most difficult types of photography to do, right?
Can't do it.
And
Not for me.
I know people out there, they'll be like, man, they'll go out for the day and they're like, man, I got like 20 great photos today. And they say something like that. I'm like, there's no way you got 20 photos, because I know guys who've got 20 amazing photos in their entire career. So it's not possible. It's like, you need to look at your stuff a little bit more critically and really, if I get one good photo a year, I'm happy. Right. And these dudes are like, man, I got like 20 great photos today. I'm like, no, you didn't. So
yeah. I know my I don't know where. So when I was little, right, like obviously elementary school, you'd go on field trips, whatever. My mom would always send me with a disposable camera. So I've been taking pictures since I was really little.
I missed the old disposable. I mean,
they're still around.
Yeah, they are.
They never left. No. You just can't find them because everyone's like, I want the film look. I'm like, just shut up.
Go to the old Kmart. So
yeah. So like, I was always snapping pictures when I was little, and then when I graduated high school, my mom bought me my first digital camera. And it was I still have it because I'm like attached to it at this point.
It's more of a personal.
I still have it on my shelf. I have a Canon Rebel T5. That was the one that kind of like spurred it for me. And the Rebels are super easy to use, right? There's like 4 buttons. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not possible for me to screw this up. And I screwed up everything.
Every shot.
Yeah. So in college, I started taking some like photography classes. I started in digital. And then I was given film cameras. And then now I have like a whole wall of them. So then I took, like you did in high school, I took a black and white film darkroom class. So I've like developed pictures. I've developed film. I did all like the light stuff. You have to turn the light on for a certain time. Like I did the whole 9 yards. My hands smelled like eggs.
Oh yeah.
The entire semester. And some of those pictures I am like super immensely proud of, because I'm like, I made that. So like Beard has one in like their entryway.
Did you do that in high school, you said, or college?
College.
Okay. I say when I went to high school, we did have a black room. We did have
when I was in, so technically my homeroom was the dark room. It was weird.
That is weird.
We weren't allowed to do anything fun because of all the computers. Like everyone else is like, oh, we're having a pizza party. I'm like, yay, we're studying.
Yeah, we're stinking.
I didn't stink, weirdly enough, but like, yeah, I mean, some of those pictures that I've taken that I really like, I'm like, I wish I'd done this. Like, I remember I was showing you pictures I took of Derek when we were playing Craig, and he's like, for action shots, you should really get them from the front. And I'm like, yeah, but Derek's going to smoke me with that golf ball.
Right.
And in the picture, I'd wanted to get his backswing and then the golf ball flying, which I did.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, I'm like, God, it would have been cool, like diagonally from the side, from the front, from whatever. It's always like that, though, right? Like, I feel like I've come a long way with photography, especially my film stuff. Like my film stuff, I'm not great, but I'm like, it's serviceable, right? I've been so in love with like my digital stuff, where it's like Buddy and I went in Minnesota. We have Brainerd. It's an international raceway. So I was shooting funny cars and like the pro, like the alcohol, whatever. So like, these cars just spitting fire on my camera and everything. I'm like, this is so cool. And that's when it, like, I don't know when it clicked for me, where I'm like, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
But now it's like everywhere I go, I almost always have a camera with me.
It's nice to have that.
I just try not to break them all. I'm kind of clumsy and I like to throw my bag.
What's your favorite thing to shoot? Like just on your own personal preference, like nature.
Other than maybe your son.
Yeah, I do a lot of photos of my son, just because he's usually who I'm with, right? But for sure, sports is definitely difficult, but it's also very rewarding, very fun. I had started this project that I was calling From the Sidelines, and so anytime I was going out to a sporting event, I would always carry the Leica. So the Leica would be around my neck, and I would just snap, kind of focusing on not so much the game itself, right? Because all the photographers are there focused on the game, but I was trying to focus on what's going on surrounding the game, right? And so that's like one of the photos the photo that Don was talking about that I sent him. It was right before the game started. And so for the people who are not 49er fans, the guys come out of the tunnel, right? They do all their introductions. And then after the introductions are done, a bunch of them will run to the end zone. And then they'll take a knee and they start praying or doing whatever they're doing as part of their pre-game routine, right? Like Devo is one of the guys that does that, Devo Samuel. So he'll go to the end zone, he takes a knee, he prays for a second, and then he gets up. And so I had been trying to get a good one of him and a good one of Kittle. So just kind of focusing on the other aspects of the game and not so much the game itself. Most athletes, most people in general, when there's a camera, they kind of put on a facade, right? They want you to either look at them as like, look at me, I'm a big tough, sports player, or look at me like I'm fancy, or depending on who it is, right? They put on
hockey. I'm kind of put on this.
They put on a show, right? They're hamming it up because the camera is there, right?
Yep.
But I've learned over time, if I wait just a little bit, they'll drop that guard, right? And they kind of show you who they really are, right? There's a really great picture of Salvador Dali in the same scenario. Salvador Dali, who was a very famous painter, but he always was doing like these crazy. Anytime somebody was taking a photo of him, he would make this crazy look on his face to go with the facade of the great Salvador Dali, right? And there was a photographer that took a photo of him, but what he did was he was like pretending like he was messing with the camera and trying to get the settings right and all that. And so he, after a while, he kind of dropped that facade, and then he was just him. And that's when he snapped the photo. And so that's one of the things that I was trying to do with this, in a big sporting event, right? Even the fans, right? They know that the cameras are out there. They know that they might be on TV. And so they're like screaming and doing all this crazy stuff, to get on TV, or to maybe they end up in a photo that ends up getting published in a newspaper or whatever. But I was looking for those little moments where people are really being themselves. And so the one that Dom got was right after he stood up. Devo had taken a knee. He was praying. He stood up, and he kind of like did this like peace sign up in the air. And that's when I snapped it. And it has a very somber feeling to it in that photo, because in the background on the marquee, it has a rest in peace thing for somebody who had passed away. And so that for me is one of the photos where I felt like I nailed it, right? Like I couldn't have done this any better, right?
Timing and everything.
The timing, right? Getting him in just the perfect position where his hand is fully extended up in the air, and the marquee in the background has the gentleman who had passed away, and it says, date he was born, date he passed away, and it says, rest in peace. That's like one of my favorite photos. That one, And then I also have along the same lines, I got one of George Kittle. And if you guys know George Kittle at all, if you've ever seen him, he is very animated.
Yes.
He's kind of all over the place, right? He's like, he loves to be in front of the camera and he does crazy faces and whatnot. And so on one of the games, game had finished, they're all dabbing each other up in the middle of the field and, hey, good job, good game. They're exchanging jerseys with other guys. If you've ever seen, when he's running out, he's crazy. He's jumping around, he's yelling. And so I was waiting for him, and he saw me, right? And so he sees me with the camera, like I'm waiting for him to do something. And so he does this big yell, big scream, and like throws his hands up, and like he's pointing out to the stands, and he's like, he points, and he kind of stops the whole, George Kittle, bigger, larger than life act. And he's like pointing up to the stands, and he goes, "That's my family up there." And that was when I snapped the photo. And it's sort of like just him pointing up, and he's not the George Kittle that you see on TV. He's just like, he's like just a kid again. Like, my family's up there watching me, his wife's up there watching me. And so I did the same thing. I snapped it. And now that was another one where I was like, oh, this is a good one. Right. So I try to get those moments, right, where it's not so much about the game, about the sport, or the athlete being the persona that they have, and more about them, the person, right? So that's kind of like that project that I was trying to do. I've got some really good ones. I did it not just with football, but I have some photos in there that are from hockey games. A couple of other events. Most of them have been from football. But I was really happy with the way that project. It wasn't something that I initially intended on doing. It just became this thing where I was like, I started to notice, oh yeah, there's this whole other world going on right now that really doesn't have anything to do with the game itself. I mean, I started trying to focus on that.
It might be a dumb question.
So I've been thinking this for a while. I think one of the pictures I really want, so if you do it again, I want one. And I really want to. So my favorite celebration in football is when Kittle gets a first down, just the little, like, I love that. I think that picture would just be like the toughest thing, because he is this crazy animated, to me, he's the best tight end in the football. Like, it's Kittle. To me, it is.
Right.
But I feel like that's truly just kind of who he is. I feel like he is kind of that crazier guy, big, long hair, loves wrestling. He's always at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. But then just, he stands up, and it's just like the easiest. He just goes like that. And then it's back off to the huddle, next play. I think that picture of just that
would be a good one.
So good.
I was just going to ask, listen, it might be a dumb question, but like, are you like subcontracting or doing these projects, and like, for example, you're down there shooting, do you have like a list of like objectives that you're trying to accomplish down there? Like, I need to get certain photos, and then when you take these photos, is it like in real time, or you have to get you have someone else like uploading the photos? And
no, so those particular photos, those aren't for anybody. Those are just my own photos, right, that I do for myself. I go out there for a specific agency, and I help their staffers, right? They're on their payroll, they're paid by them directly, right? So I go out there helping them. And sometimes, when I first started it, when I was first doing it, it was not glamorous in any way. It was like, hey, carry this bag for me, right? And I think the fact that I was willing to do stuff like that, they kind of gave me some credibility, right? Because a lot of people, I mean, nowadays it's like, I'm not going to do that. I want the, I want the job, right? Like, I'm not going to earn my way there. You need to pay me, the big bucks, and I need to do the special assignments and all that. Nobody wants to earn their way anymore.
Yeah, we want to carry your bag.
Right. And so for me, it was like, I'm going to get in where I fit in, right? And so if I have to carry somebody's bag just so that I could be there, right, then I'll do that. I didn't have a problem with that, right? I've had to work for everything that I've ever gotten anyway, so it's not a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Right. And so to kind of answer your question, right, I'm usually there as assisting these other guys who are there as staffers. But I have gotten assignments, like they've given me, small gigs and been like, hey, we want you to go, can you go take some portraits of somebody or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I'm always the guy that's like, if they need somebody like, hey, we need help with whatever, I'm the first one to throw my hand up, because I don't, for me, it's a passion, right? I love taking photos. And so, if a friend is like, hey, we want to do some portraits of our newborn or whatever, I'm like, yep, I'll do it. Or, hey, so-and-so is getting married, would you mind, taking photos at the wedding? Yeah, no problem. I'll do it. Because it's fun, right? To me, it's fun. But it's also honing your craft, right? You're only going to get better if you're always practicing, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because you just named the two things I never ever want to do. I'll never shoot weddings because I hate it.
I've done that.
And I don't like babies.
I haven't done that.
I'll take newborn portraits over weddings anytime.
I think I probably would too, but like I just don't like babies.
Yeah.
It's so much work.
It's like, what do you do with them?
My wife and I,
it's like a Tamagotchi, but in real life.
My wife and I shot. We've done, I think, 3 weddings, and again, they're more just like family friend weddings. But like, we would have a couple cameras set up, and then we do a little bit of video stuff too. But it's like, there's so much pressure on you because not only like you're involved that whole day, but it's like once you take the videos and the photos, like you obviously have to go back and you go through them, and there's so much involved, and it's like, you just don't want to like ruin their day and just make a bad, you know what I mean? Like you're what you have as an idea of your photos could be a little bit different than what they. So I'm like, like it's just, it's cool that my wife and I got to do it together, but I'm like, yeah,
I just don't want to be like the center of attention, which for weddings, I always feel like the photographer, like
it's the couple and then it's the photographer.
Right. Basically. It's like I went to my buddy's wedding, congrats. They're pregnant now, which is cool, I think.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Shout out Connor.
Well, Connor's like, yeah, we weren't really trying yet, but like they're trying for the summer, and I'm like, it's close enough. And then I did the math, and it was Valentine's Day. I was like, hell yeah, go Connor. But again, they had this beautiful wedding. I'm there alone, so like I'm just chilling, and then I'm like, I should be looking at them, but I'm like, there's a photographer, and I'm like, should really be like, that's my issue. Is I don't want to be that. No offense to the photographer, but
yeah, she's trying doing their job.
The pictures are beautiful. Like she's there to do her job. She did her job well, but now I'm distracted. I don't want to do that. And then I was in a wedding. I felt the same way. I'm like, I'm in this wedding, and I have to give what is it, the pastor who does the reading?
Yeah,
whatever. I had to give her the rings, and I'm so distracted by the photographer with the flashes. I'm like, oh, I have the rings. They're in my pocket. Hold on. But you and I briefly kind of talked about it. Do you have any photographers that you look up to? Because I know I have a few.
Man, there's a lot. So I really like Gary Winogrand's work. I think he was probably one of the more prolific photographers of, like, he was around the 70s and the 80s. Just thousands and thousands of photos, right? And a bunch that never got developed. So he's probably one of my favorites. I like Stephen Shore. Who else? I like, so people that I know, I would say like Ben Molina is a very, very good photographer here in the Bay Area. He does mostly street photography type stuff. He's probably one of my favorite people that I know, and I give that guy his flowers anytime I can. He's an amazing photographer, and if you're not familiar with him, look him up on Instagram. He goes by the Ben Molina. And then some of the guys that I get to be around just in the sporting events, like, I don't know if you guys know who Michael Zagaris is. He's a amazing sports photographer, but he's also done like a lot of music events. So him, Jose Fajardo is a local photographer here in the Bay Area. Kyle Terada. Man, there's a lot. I could go on forever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good photographers.
I know one that's really spurred my interest the older I get, and I have a book from him, or of him, I should say. But Manuel Alvarez Bravo from Mexico City. I love I have one of his portraits. Books. I love his portraits, and I don't know what it is that just like draws me into it. I think it's just like how natural everything is, which is how I kind of do my portraits. Is I'm not into super edited pictures or anything like that. Mine are very natural because I want them to look like person, right? Like,
right.
That's the point of a portrait. I love his work. On the newer side, I've been really into Peter McKinnon lately.
I know.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more YouTube-y, flashy. But I love his work that he does with like vehicles. Like he did one for it's like Hyundai Canada or something, and I was like, that is dope. And that's kind of what spurred my interest into car photography. It helps that I know people with some badass cool cars, and that they let me goof around and fly the drones at their Corvettes and everything, which is super fun. Shout out Chaz and Jess, thanks for sponsoring. And then
if you like so it's not traditional car photography in the sense, right? But Lee Friedlander has a very good book that he did when he was like driving up and down in his vehicle. So he would take photos while he was driving and just snap photos of certain things. He's got a really good book. It's not car photography in the same sense, but it's like
photography in a car.
And there's some amazing.
I would do that, but I just totaled my car.
Yeah,
and I feel like if I total my work van, that might be an issue, because then they're like, "Oh, damn, maybe Dom doesn't know how to drive." And the issue is I know how to drive.
Maybe you could do bike photography.
I don't have a bike. I don't know how to ride a bike.
We could get you to ride a bike. It's a training wheel.
I can ride a bike. I can't swim. I can ride a bike. And then obviously I'm a big fan of your work. So for me, you're like up there, partially because like if I ever have any questions, you are the first person to help me. And I refer to you as like my camera dad. I was telling Derek about that. It's very humbling for me to be like, hey, can I do this? Does that make sense? And I always appreciate that you get back to me whenever you can. I know you're busy with obviously little Miklo and everything else. So I always appreciate that you're like, oh, just do it like this, whatever. I bought a flash, still have not used it, but I have one. So I got to bust that thing out pretty soon. But I've always appreciated that. I don't know if I've ever said it or not, but always thank you for taking the time, helping the younger guys.
Well, that's the thing about, at least in photojournalism, it's very cutthroat. And it's hard to find somebody to like mentor you or like take you under their wing, right? Because you're almost competition, right? Because you're competing to get that photo that's going to be on the front page or whatever. And so in that sense, it's pretty difficult. But I've like I said, I've been lucky to be around some really, really good photographers, and just being around them makes you better, right? So I always believe in paying it forward and helping somebody else. Like if I know something that's going to help you do your job or do, your photography better, then I'm going to share that with you. Right. Cause it's just going to make you better. Right. And then at some point you will pass that on to somebody else. Like somebody will be coming to you and saying like, hey Dom, I want to do A, B, and C. Like, what do you think? And then you'll be like, oh yeah, you should try this. Because you're going to have got that from me or from somebody, right? Somebody's going to instill that in you, and then it's your job to pay it forward and teach somebody else.
I like pictures. They're fun. They're fun. And they spur stories. And, I've been doing a lot of golf course stuff lately because a lot of the courses invite you and I out. They're like, oh, yeah, take pictures, whatever. Like Craigan's. So like, yeah, take pictures. Or we played the 3M Open Media event last year. So we played TPC Twin Cities. And I was like, can I bring my camera? Like, is that okay? Because it's a private course. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So I've got all these cool pictures of the course done up with all the 3M Open stuff and everything. We got invited out again this year. So I'm debating on if I should bring my camera again or if we just want to chill and play. But we all know I'm going to bring my damn camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Duh.
So we'll just kind of wrap it up. So it's been a great time chatting with you. And like I said, we appreciate taking the time. We come back out there and we visit you. Where are we all going to go out to eat? Where are you taking us?
So hold on. Where do we get pizza when we were out there with Jordan?
I'm not sure. I can't remember the place.
Just don't take us to where Jordan took us.
Okay. So no pizza, or just not where Jordan took you?
Not where Jordan took us.
We'll have to figure out.
I don't know where Jordan took us with Beard and Juju and.
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but yeah, there's a couple of them. They were like renovating that area. They were trying to like bulldoze it. They saved it, like the city.
It's solid pizza.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good pizza. Yeah. I liked it.
I just don't want to go back there. I want to try something new.
Okay. So we're obviously doing tacos.
Yes, that's a must. Is there a specific spot that we're hitting up?
Which truck are we running?
So the first one is going to be La Grana, and that's in Oakland. Very, very small spot in Fruitvale district area. For those people who are familiar, they have some of the most amazing tacos there. I've tried everything that they have there, and I've yet to have anything that was bad. And I'm very picky. I'm very picky when it comes to Mexican food, obviously, because I'm Mexican, right? So I love that place. So La Grana for sure is number one. And then we'd probably go to, have you guys ever had Lebanese food?
I haven't personally, no.
Okay.
I'm interested now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely go to Wally's Cafe. And that's in, it's on the border
of the Lebanese
Oakland.
Restaurant.
I was not expecting the Lebanese to be Wally's.
Yeah.
It's Wally's Cafe, but the guy who owns it is my sister's father-in-law, and his name is Walid. But they call it his place is called Wally's Cafe.
Walid. I like that Walid.
Yeah, that place is amazing. I love the food there. So definitely would go there. What else?
Is it pretty spicy?
No.
It's not. Okay, I was just kind of curious on that because
I think Lebanese food is more like savory.
Yeah. I'm thinking Ethiopian food. I've tried Ethiopian food and I know that can get pretty hot. Yeah, but it's pretty good.
They have a garlic sauce that they put on like some of the meats. That's kind of punchy, right? It's pretty garlicky, but it's very, very good. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I just like garlic.
Yeah, I don't know where else. Maybe Taqueria Azteca or El Gruyense. Two of my favorite taquerias. Definitely hit those up.
We definitely didn't do California correctly with the food.
No, well, we kind of the crappy thing was like we stayed in San Jose, right. And then we like drove back and forth a lot. So it's like
we cooked breakfast like idiots.
We did cook breakfast. Well, yeah, we got a bunch of. Dude, we wasted so much food
We left
more drinks than anything.
We left so much alcohol at the Airbnb where we messaged them and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's fine," and then they gave us an immediate 5-star.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they could have gave us like a 10-star, they would have, because like we gave them probably easily like $50.
It was so bad. So like the morning you and I were playing Half Moon Bay is when Luke from Black Blast landed, and
shout out Luke.
Yeah,
wherever the hell he is in the ocean, nobody knows where this man is.
Nobody knows.
That's the beauty of Luke, right? And he's sitting on the deck waiting for us, and he's already drinking seltzers. And we're like, "Where the hell did you get those from?" He goes, "Bro, I walked to Costco."
We're like, "Dude, you should check the fridge, my friend. We got to."
Yeah, he walked to Costco and had 2 big cases of knockoff,
like High Noons or like
knockoff White Claws.
Yeah.
Okay, he's like, "Yeah, bro, got these," and walked back. And we're like, "What the hell?"
That was the first weekend that I had tried High Noon, which is really good.
Oh, that was my first High Noon too.
Yeah, those were legit.
And then I don't remember much else. I wandered off on Taco Bell.
One of those things that's like, if I'm gonna like drink something, I feel like if you start with like 2 High Noons, and then because I like the IPA beers, so it's like, then it's not as thick. Then if you have like 1 or 2 of those, then you're kind of good.
Yeah, I agree.
But well, man, it's been a pleasure. It's so great to see you. Let's do this again in the near future, man.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Nervous for nothing.
and hey, man, yeah, continue. Hopefully the kid continues to want to play golf and continue to learn, and we're excited to see what he's got in the
future Mexican Tiger Woods.
Hell yeah, dude, that'd be so sick.
Hopefully, keep
our money.
I'd say pretty soon he's actually gonna be charging for lessons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's where we're at.
It's coming.
It's great.
Yeah,
exactly. Thanks so much, man. Take care. Good to see you.
All right, guys.
All right, later.